Hi. Hi, everyone. This is Rory coming from the beautiful bedroom that I have because the internet is great here. Okay, cool. So I've got 40 minutes. I've got 40 minutes to convince you something that took me a couple of years to convince me. Let me just put my timer on here to make sure that I don't actually overrun. Okay, that's great. And let's start. Put the chat window down. You can click through on this little, let's go start. You can click through on this little boy here, QR code. You can also click through on here at the bottom, akka.ms/devconf 222. You can actually follow while I'm doing this. All of the content is actually online. And please follow me at Rory Preddy. I have 2,500 followers. Yay, whoop whoop. I do 50% memes, and they're really good quality. I use some of the best quality memes that you can get, and then 50% Azure material. And why Azure? I'm actually part of the developer relations team in Microsoft. I'm called a developer audience marketing manager, and what I do is throw parties for developers. Wait, Rory, that can't be true. Yes, it actually can be true because I do awareness sessions for most of Microsoft's development technologies, focusing on Azure. And this talk is an interesting talk because it took me a little bit convincing that Microsoft could overnight create a toolset like Azure DevOps, and at the same time adopt a strategy, an agile strategy, and change its entire ecosystem. You can see here what we're looking at here. This isn't live. This dude here, he's not really live at all. This is the command center, our fishbowl in Seattle, and all of these screens here monitor the different Azure technologies, Azure DevOps technologies. So let's go in, and I've got a story to show you and to tell you on how they did that. So first, a lesson about Microsoft's DevOps journey. That's really the focus of this talk, though. So how did we manage to adopt DevOps? So let's start also with the Agile Manifesto, created in the 90s. And it came about as we wanted to get better control over our ecosystem. And you can see here it says individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration, responding to change. And we had such an important message to tell the world. We wanted the world to understand we knew how to write software. And the future was bright. And we looked forward to an opportunity that we could collaborate with business, with operations, with all the different teams there to create working software. But what happened? Well, for start, the bane of my existence, this little thing here, Open Office, which basically I had my own little door that I could open, and then that's Rory there, and Rory could actually go in, get some coffee, and then go back into his door and do his own thing. Instead, what we got was open offices with everyone trying to do something else. Like you can see here, this is a fish tank in an open office. Can you imagine in load shedding or power failure exactly how difficult it is? And can you imagine, how difficult it is to clean this thing here? So we got open offices. That's great. We didn't ask for them, but we got them. We also learned how to clean a whiteboard. So these are quite expensive whiteboards, and you should use like a whiteboard cleaner and the right markers and the 3M materials, and you can clean this pretty nicely. And I've seen people who have spent more on whiteboards than they have on the entire development process. We also learned how to stick post-it notes. I went on 2 training courses on how to stick post-it notes. And what you do there is that you hold the post-it notes on your hand, very importantly, and you open the post-it notes and you gently run your finger there, because what you don't realize is there are tiny little glue crystals inside the post-it notes. You don't want to pop them all at the same time. And then you can stick them on. I went on 2 courses that actually taught me that. And we also came from organizations that weren't ready for Agile, that weren't ready for DevOps. So here's a few of those organizations. That one, and these people, and those people, and what about that one there? So let's zoom into that organization there. And you can see there, pretty funnily, those were all the different teams that were trying to actually say, stay away. I don't want to actually have anything to do with you. You are threatening me. We no longer were a engineering team. We were a team that was focused on each team's deliverables. And we created something called the Hydra. Now, the Hydra is actually, well, let's write there, bugs. And in the Hydra, these bugs would crop up in the neck. And every time that you would chop one off, another bug would actually come about. And we weren't able to move fast. And the whole idea of agile is exactly in that word, being agile, not having open offices or post-it notes or all of these different gimmicks, but to be able to write software quickly. So we started on a journey, started in 2005, if you remember TFS. And we delivered software, but we delivered a little bit slow, but then we started to deliver a little bit quicker and quicker and quicker. And we created Sprint 1 of Azure DevOps in 2010 and moved it all the way through to the last final and rebranded it. We created from Visual Studio Team Services a online platform. So this talk is about how we became agile and transformed a box software product into a service. How we moved a company that has more than 400,000 employees and nearly 7.5 million partners for a total of nearly 11 million people into an agile environment. Let's start with what is DevOps. So if this individual person just looks at the elephant, he won't understand the sum total of the whole. And it's summed up the DevOps definition for DevOps is a union of people, processes, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. Donovan Brown. You may know Donovan Brown is one of the leaders in Microsoft in DevOps. But there's another person you may know notice, and that's Rory Preddy. And my motto is do not deploy on a Friday. Friends, don't let friends deploy on a Friday. But it's easy also to see it when you actually see it in real life. And Azure DevOps is comprised of multiple different components, and each one of those components lets you access certain elements of DevOps. So we've got Azure boards, so plan, track, and discuss work items across your team. Azure pipelines, those are really the workers, and they let you do CI/CD. Azure repos to store your code. Azure test plans, test and ship with confidence. And then Azure artifacts, create and host shared packages. You can access Azure DevOps at azure.com/DevOps. We also open sourced our tasking library, the Azure DevOps tasking library, and allowed people to create tasks inside Azure DevOps and open source it to the world. You can go there, and we even have customers who are creating that. Financial services company, insurance companies. You don't have one now. Have a look how easy it is to actually go and create an Azure DevOps marketplace item. And at Microsoft, we do DevOps. We have 96,000 engineers using Azure DevOps. 6.3 million builds per month. 5 million work items per day. 2 million Git commits per month, 500 million test executions per day, 500,000 work items updated per day, 163,000 deployments per day. And we've learned some habits. Let's go through as what we learned from this journey. So one, customer focused, customer obsessed. And we listen to our customers quantitatively and qualitatively. So you can see here, we've got the suggestion box that you can actually do. And you can mark a suggestion. We also have a broad and beautiful developer community built from thousands of user groups and communities. We have Stack Overflow, if you want to go down there. Okay, have fun. Always upvote, never downvote. Don't ask a question that someone else has asked. And then we have feedback on all of our products. And anyone who actually notices that, if you go into our products, you log in an important question, you will get a response. These are all feedback, all of these feedback into our score sheets for each one of our areas and our business and the champion. And then we get a actual engagement and other metrics here. Listen to your customers. You get what you measure. So we have our engineering scorecards, real-time analysis, and then we measure customer usage, pipeline velocity, live site health. We do not measure the anti-patterns, original estimates, completed lines of code, team capacity, team burn down, number of bugs, number of bugs found, and percent code coverage. These are all anti-patterns. And we have a definition of done. Live in production, collecting telemetry that examines the hypothesis that motivated the deployment. What? That sounds very scientific, and it is scientific because we're doing experiments. So let's look, build, measure, learn to work out how to actually get to that point of done. One, we've got a hypothesis. We believe customer segment wants that product or feature because of that value proposition. Now then we experiment. And we use different tools, and we'll go through the different tools that you can use on how you can actually create experiments. To prove or disprove the above, the team will conduct the following experiments. The above experiments proved or disproved the hypothesis by impacting the following metrics. Hypothesis, experiment, learn. Build, measure, learn. We do that with tools. And one of the most important tools that we have is feature flags. And the ability to actually react quickly is, in this day and age, a tool of choice. All code is deployed, but feature flags control exposure. And we're going to go through how you do this with rings later. And it reduces integration debt. Flags provide control, runtime control down to the individual user. Users can be added or removed with no redeployment. Mechanism progresses experimentation and refinement. Enables the dark launch. Right now, the tools that you're using in Microsoft are being updated in real time to you without affecting you. And there's a little button there, and those tags there, those little buttons that you can flip on and off, give that to your business user. You should not be responsible and held accountable for them launching your systems. Then we look at production first mindset. And it starts with roles. Engineering is responsible for production with the service delivery team. So here you have your team. We have our engineers. They're also 24/7 called for their product issues. And then they get the incidents in their backlog. They're responsible. And they're supported, surrounded and supported by site reliability engineers. They handle platform issues and have full production access. A team. And then they log the incidents. Both are accountable for logging incidents. Communicate internally to customers and externally to teams. Gather data for, externally to customers and internally to teams. Gather data for repair items. And the repair items, all of these metrics here are gathered to say, okay, cool, let's log a repair item. And then from those repair items, you mitigate those incidents to customers. Every action recorded. Team autonomy and enterprise alignment. So now we've got that production first mindset. How do we actually get our teams aligned? Let's give our teams three things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. We have our different elements of our teams. We break it up into autonomy, the plans and practices, and alignment. So we take our typical development team, our program management, development, and testing. We combine them. into engineering and ops. And then from those teams, we align them into a feature team comprised of each one of the three, and then the constant feedback with our customers. But teams are also important because they create cohesive units. And I spend more time with my team than I do with my extended family. So I want to know how these teams work. Physical team rooms, cross-discipline, 10 to 12 people, self-managing, clear charts and goals, enact for 12 to 18 months, own features in production, and own deployment of features. Classic agile teams. And we strive, instead of horizontal teams for single purpose, we strive for teams that are vertical, being able to actually form part of the feature team, a classic agile concept. But sticky notes are still important, the good ones from 3M. Opportunity to create teams without formal interviews or top-down reorgs. Unique approach within Microsoft, typically 20% change, but 100% get to make a choice. And create opportunities for everyone to learn new things. And what we do with these sticky notes, it gives people the opportunity and the voice that they might not get on digital. Sticky note exercises are still important. How do you stay in sync with all these teams? We use 3-week sprints. You can see here, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. And for each sprint, we break them up. Sprint planning starts after the last sprint. We interwoven them, and then done, and then deployment, and then the next sprint starts. At the same time, we have deliverables. Week 1, we have the sprint plan, emailed out, digital. Most of our teams do not have face-to-face. What we accomplish, and this is pretty important. We send out an email with the hypothesis and a video supporting the hypothesis. So here's the sprint email. We have the plans, pretty simple. Goals, user stories. And then we send another email there with the actual email and also a video showing the work done according to what was accomplished. We also have a sprint email per epic, the values delivered for each objective for the epic, the video by epic objective, and the value planned for that next epic in the next sprint cycle. And part of this planning, we have sprints, quarters, semesters, and strategy. The teams, the feature teams, are responsible for the detail. Leadership is responsible for the big picture, as per Agile. The quality before, so before we had code, test and stabilize, code, test and stabilize. Stabilize? Why would you need to stabilize if you're running fast? How can you stabilize? So code completes, and you'd get these kind of cycles there of instability, stabilize, instability, stabilize, instability, stabilize. We had multi-year cycles, milestones just for stabilization, and debt. Quality before, and then we introduced the 3-week sprints. Quality afterwards. We started to move fast. And we also adopted shift left quality. So what is shift left? I can't jump here, but if I was in a room right now, I would jump to the left. And shift left is actually an approach that people are doing across all of the industry. I speak on accessibility, and I have been speaking on how to include, you can go onto YouTube and watch some of my talks, on how to include accessibility at the beginning of your session. And shift left is also important to managing your pipeline. So how do you go fast and not break things? We follow a simple rule we called the bug cap. Number of engineers on your team times 4 equals to how many bugs you have. So 10 engineers, let's say, times 4 equals 40 bugs. If you go above 40 bugs, you'll get a no-no. You'll get basically an intervention because everyone will on the scorecards be able to see you've gone above your bug cap. How you define a bug cap is with your stakeholders. And then we have the engineering scorecard. So we've got all of our different product sets here, our different products, and all of the different metrics, and then also how fast you're moving. But importantly, we have the bug bar, the top there. And the bug bar shows green and red. Right over there, I want to do an intervention. You have above the bug cap. It means that something is wrong. Are you not handling something? Are you feeling too much pressure? Do you have enough resources? How's your team working? Intervention. Shift left from integration to JUnit test. This was pretty fascinating because I've been trying to teach every developer known to man that unit testing and test first is important, but this is a different approach. This says test first, but test different. And it breaks the test into 4 different types of test strategies, L0 to L3. So L0 requires only the built binaries, no dependencies, just the binaries, just the code that you've written. L1 adds those binaries, dependencies, and adds the ability to use SQL and file systems, run L0 and L1 in the pull request builds, and we'll get to that soon. L2, test a service via the REST APIs, and L3, full environment test end-to-end. We went on a journey. You can see here, milestone 78, and right at the end, milestone 120. And we started to invest. We had originally invested a lot into L3. You can see the L3, very little L0. And moving across there, we came to the point over there in milestone 101, where we would do more L0, quicker, better on PR requests than we did than L3. And now, right at the end, we're doing most of them L0. Remember those tests that we did, test executions, millions per day? Those are the L0 tests. And you test them on a pull request. So it's not typical pull request. We have a small company which is working really well. GitHub, if you don't use it, please go use it. Really great for pull requests. And pull requests are a point of code review. L0 and L1 test performed before the merge. So you have to show that you've tested your system before you can do a merge. Results, shift left testing to pre-merge. 1 out of 4 pull requests will fail, but they'll fail before you go to an L3 or L4. Make CI builds fails rare. 1 out of 100 CI builds fail. And we've shifted left. So here's a testing against the pull request. Feedbacks in minutes before the acceptance of the pull request. Fast. Once we have that pull request, once you actually have your system, green means red, green means red, green means green, red means red. Nothing that is not actually passing the test gets to go to release. And we'll talk about releases now. So once you have that, you have your release. Your aim won't be perfect. Control the blast radius. Ring 0, ring 1, ring 2, ring 3, ring 4. However many rings you want, because all the more rings means all the more quality. So progressive exposure with those rings. And you can see here, this is a typical kind of deployment. And this is a small deployment. We have the first rings, and then we branch out. And these, see that there, that's approval, that needs approval, and also that needs to check that the tests are running. Deploy one stage at a time. Result, visibility into impact of every deployment. Move across canary data centers in different topologies with small user counts, data centers with large user counts, highest latency, and the rest. Constantly moving, not sitting still. Does this product match our users' requirements? Is this product ready for a region? If you're part of the Windows Insider and the Insider program in Microsoft, you're one of the inner rings. And then finally, when you teach presentation training, they say give something to the audience that enables them and gives them speed into enable what you teach. And I'm going to give you something as Git as a flexible resource. But first, let's understand. There are 5 stages of Git. Denial. I really want to use subversion, source control, everything like that. I really liked what I previously had. Anger. I'm just going to merge, anger merge everything. Git force everything, merge. Bargaining. Yeah, you do my pull request. I'll do your pull request. Or maybe just look the other way. I don't really know. And depression. My bull didn't run, my PR didn't pull, and then finally acceptance. How did I live without this before? This is brilliant. We use something called release flow. This is quite controversial. I've done this talk at quite a few customers and communities. And when I get to this event here, they go, no, release flow is not for everyone. Because release flow makes the assumption you're working with master. You can't work with master. You have to work with branches. But if you want to go fast, you have to work with master. And then you can cut releases, and these can die at the end, or cut releases, and they can die. And at worst case scenario, you can push something to them. But every developer who checks out there or checks out there will have the correct product. Also, if you have a hotfix and you push the hotfix there, everyone will get that hotfix. And what we worked out is that it's more important to go fast and to be able to maintain quality with the hotfixes that you know are in there than it is to be able to have long-running branches. And it's very controversial, this, but it works for us. And I'll give you a link to how this works and how you can encounter it, and I'll take questions afterwards. But it works in large systems. Large systems? There's a spectrum of scale. So if you were to download Git, it's pretty small. If you were to download Linux, a little bit bigger. Azure DevOps right now is 10 gigs, the actual source repository. Windows and Office just over 100 gigs. Windows is 300 gigabytes big with 5,000 users, one repo. We try to do that. We try to do that with Azure DevOps, and we created something that we brought in tool sets that made us sure that the developers working on that would not avoid, they would have immediate responses. Because the minute that happens, that you avoid, you either switch context or keep the user's attention or create an interactive response, an experience. We invented something called Virtual File System for Git, which is a virtual file system for Git, and enabled us to actually remove the need to download the entire repository, focus on the files that matter, reduce the object transfer, don't wait for expensive operations. How expensive? Before, without VFS for Git, we would do a clone and bear. It would take 12 hours to do the Windows repo. Just a checkout, 3 hours. A status, 10 minutes. A commit, 30 minutes. You would not sit for that. With VFS for Git, 4 to 5 minutes for a clone, 30 seconds for checkout, 3 seconds for status, 6 seconds for a commit. But there's more. Wait, Bob, there's more. Realizing that no one wanted to create a virtual file system on their own system, and also we hadn't open source VFS yet, we created something called Scala, which was released in February of this year. It's developed on GitHub, so it works perfectly on GitHub also. It's a .NET core application coded in C#. It bypassed the need of a virtualized file system, and it's open source. You can download it right now. If you have repos that are, as per that map, large and you're suffering, you can actually get it to work on your repos, and you can create an interactive experience rather than the minutes or the hours or whatever you're suffering with on Git. And it's important to understand, if you're going to use head-based deployment, you need to use something like Scala or VFS for Git with large repos. So that's our DevOps transformation. Let's go through exactly what we learned here. Still got a lot of time for questions, and I've still got a few more slides. So the story so far. So before, we had 4 to 6 month milestones, seasonal. winter, spring, summer, horizontal teams, personal offices. I miss my personal office. Long planning cycles, PM dev and test, yearly customer engagement, feature branches, 20+ person teams, secret roadmap, bug depth accumulated, 100-page spec documents, private repositories, deep organizational hierarchy, success and measure of install numbers, and feature shipped once a year. Remember those days? After 3-week sprints, vertical teams, team rooms, continued planning and learning, the PM and engineering sat together, continued customer engagement, everyone in master, 8 to 12 person teams, publicly shared roadmap. You can go on now to Azure DevOps, to Windows, to Office. You can actually see the roadmap for the features that are going to be introduced. Debt paid is incurred, markups in PowerPoint, and emailed out plans in a source, flattened organizational hierarchy, user satisfaction determines success. Feature shipped every sprint. 163,000 deployments a day. And I like to end off in a video, and I think that this video sums it up.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away.
These people do.
Let's watch.
This dude here, this dude here. So he's refueled there, and that guy over there in the top, don't know what he does. Now they're going, okay, drink something, like an espresso. Okay, up there. Okay, hammering. And then, okay, this dude here now has started to clean the windscreen. He's getting impatient, really getting impatient there. And cleaning, oh no, they've done another tire there. Okay, they've done another tire there. He's like been using a tool. Putting them on, okay, now he's banging it there.
The tires are changed at last. Okay. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
Okay. That was pretty painful. Now 2013 in Melbourne. Thank you, everyone. We still have a lot of time. You can click on this link over there. It takes you through to a lot of material that we have, and you can also use that link over there, acad.ms DevConf 2002. Follow me on Twitter. I promise you that you will not get bored. You'll get sometimes confused, but it's got some good stuff there. So yeah, click through there. I'll leave that open. Let's go on to some of your questions. Wow. Okay. That's just me telling them I'm nervous. Okay, so cool. Please answer questions when you're done. Question: Microsoft does not measure team velocity at all. No, the teams should measure velocity. So that is from, okay, didn't really say. Oh wait, let's just go up there. Okay, didn't really say. 2 minutes by Carl Titus. Question: How did your team respond to moving to Azure DevOps? Was it a smooth transition? No, it wasn't actually. VFS was much loved by, VSTS was much loved by a lot of teams, and the move to Agile was quite disruptive. I remember that I spoke to a few of the developer teams, and they were also concerned. This presentation was created to show the journey and to also try and engage with the rest of the Microsoft staff and to show them the successes. It was disruptive. A lot of people lost their offices. A lot of people actually had to move into sprint teams. And a lot of people had to understand Git-based deployment. Okay, so question. What would an intervention involve when you go over your bug cap? So we have multiple, that's by Reinhard Krumholz. So we have multiple stakeholders. So you start off with the engineer, then you have the program manager, then you have the divisional head. Then on the top there, you have the VP, CVP, EVP, and Satya Nadella. And that's really, we have like 7 or 8 levels though. And the escalation means that that individual gets called out and said, you've missed an SLA. Depending on your product set, the SLAs can range anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. And if you own that product set, your manager will get an escalation and they'll say, quickly, pull that up, that scorecard that we have, the test cases that we have there, what is going on, and can we actually release a bug fix? Now remember, we can release a bug fix right now because we are confident that head-based deployment is actually the one in production. So if we're going to release a bug fix, everyone's going to get it, everyone's going to work at the same time, and we can push it to production, and we do that with the rings. We'll push it to the first ring, we'll get the customers, the people who are experiencing the problem to go in that ring, and then we'll actually go and push it to all of the other rings. Okay, so 3 minutes ago, Baran, what is the best way to bring a hotfix down to staging and dev branch? So I'm not going to cover this too much though, because this is really more Git strategies. But basically, if you're going to bring a hotfix down, you're going to bring it down from master, and then you're going to bring it into a hotfix branch. You're going to implement that hotfix branch, and then you're going to let that hotfix branch actually just deplete. But what you're going to try to do is do it as quick as possible into your rings rather. Okay, so question, as the sprint finishes, what if there's still some code in review? Would you deploy only certain branches, and how would you make sure only those certain branches go through into production? We don't have one production, and this is a mindset that I think you need to change. That's by Dylan Matthews. We have thousands of productions. We have thousands of different types of rings. So if we can test a hotfix in an individual ring, test it. The rings, some of our internal staff are testers because we have the rings only internally facing. We test the ring, and then once we're happy with that, then we actually go externally to customer facing. Okay, question, can you enforce TDC with Azure? Test driven, I don't know what test TDC is though. So maybe if you can tell me what TDC is. But Alexandra Illis. Okay, so let's go here. Robert Bravery, hello. Brilliant talk. Thank you. Okay, question, are you not worried about messing up master if everyone is on it a few seconds? Okay, so by Robert Bravery. No, because you have to show that the PR request. Remember, you're not the only person to be able to push into master. Those are owned by the program manager or the regional directors. You can't just push into master. You have to show the actual sprint deliverables. You have to send the email out, and then you also have to show that you run the test cases. Not everyone can actually push into master. Question, great insight for talk. Any whispers at .NET Core 3.0? Well, 3.1 is already out. So, and also we're not calling it .NET Core anymore. We're calling it .NET. And we're rebranding it to make sure that the .NET framework and the core developers are also both on the same stream. Because we want to work on master. We want to work on head with .NET Core. We don't want to have 2 different separate product sets that we saw there. We want to move fast with .NET. Question, do you see some uptake of Azure DevOps in South Africa? How did your team respond to, no. Do you see some uptake of Azure DevOps in South Africa? What are the challenges locally by Jean Swat? It is one of our most popular products, principally because the marketplace allows you to deploy to any cloud, including Azure, including IBM, including Red Hat. And this culture that we have shown you in this presentation is really well adopted by our customers, even our competitors, and it's become an industry-focused lead. So South Africa really, sometimes they're not even in the cloud. They're using Azure DevOps just to push to their local systems though, but they really appreciate it. And also remember, if you have an open source project, 10 pipelines are for free, and you can start off now. We have one pipeline for free, and then every other pipeline after that is costed. You also, if you have a Visual Studio subscription, you get pipelines for free also. Did you implement these principles in small isolated teams first and then share it across the organization, or was it big bang? Big bang. This was for Azure DevOps. So they built Azure DevOps with this process. Then they're adopting it to Windows. So right now they're in the process of adopting it. They should have been finished by now. And then they're going to go to Office and then .NET. So we're adopting it and we're migrating all of our systems, whereas that we had big deployments and service patches and all of these things. We want to do this quickly and often without any disruptions. Question, definitely going to use going to, as a student, get qualified with Azure. Any advice? Cloud fundamentals. Understand what the cloud can bring you. Understand what you need to do to be able to implement the cloud in your system. And what you'll find out is that any cloud is very similar. Do your cloud fundamentals first, and then go into your more advanced certifications. Why not 2-week sprints, and how did it come to 3 weeks? A bit of a contention. This might be geographically. So some geographies actually have preference over not working on weekends, working on weekends, 7-day weeks, 6-day weeks. And it depends on the geography, it depends on the ecosystem. But typically in sprint, you do 2 to 3 weeks. But remember that what we did with the 3 weeks there, we sent out those sprint emails. Those are very nice, but they take time. And if you saw the overlap there, the 3rd week was mainly to actually show the value in your sprint, to send out the email, and to then prepare the next plan. TDC is test-driven coding. Oh, test-driven development. Okay, so if we remember what we have here, so if we can we enforce TDC with Azure? With Azure DevOps, this Azure. So if you saw there L0 to L4, the L0 and the L1 were your unit tests. Then you had integration tests, which is your REST services. And right at the end, then you had to end-to-end test those. So definitely you can do. As a part of the test-driven development is to go from your unit tests to your integration tests to your test, full test cycles. And cool, I think that's everyone. Thank you. I really enjoyed this talk. If you can vote for me, please. My children need to eat. Click through here. Please follow me on Twitter and have some fun. And please, if you do have any possibility of helping the first responders right now that are at the front line fighting this battle, then just give them a shout and give them a hug and give them some kind of help, though, because it means a lot to everyone to know that we're in this together. Thanks, everyone.